Dear delegates, we are running short of time. Once again, we are all inviting you for this concluding session. I am requesting Dr. K. Narayan Gowda sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bangalore Agriculture University, to chair this concluding session. And also I am requesting Dr. Ajay Parida, Executive Director, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, Chennai, to be on the dais, and also Dr. P.K. Shetty, Professor and former Dean NIAS, and also the brain behind this important international conference. And also I am requesting him to accompany all the guests to dais.
So good evening to each one of you. We are coming to the last session of the 2 days program, which is the valedictory session. And there are five sessions altogether since yesterday, and a lot of discussion, deliberations have gone in from each of these sessions. Very eminent speakers have come out with issues relating to national perspective and also the local problems. So these are being brought out in the form of recommendations, and certainly these are of interest to this august body. And for this, we have our important co-chairman, Professor Ajay Parida, the director of the MSRF Foundation. As you know, that's one of the very important institutions, innovative institution concerned with agriculture and rural development. And on the left side, we have the person behind the whole program, Professor P.K. Shetty. In fact, we all feel proud of him. Being alumnus of the US Bangalore, is organizing such initiatives, such programs very often. And I had a fortune to participate in the recently held rice intensification, enhancing the productivity in rice. And just within 6 months, he was able to organize. Although he's a person of individual year, but he's by institution. That speaks of his potentiality and strength. We should all feel proud of him. Let us also appreciate this type of initiatives being taken up by him. With this now, we shall go for the reporters' report from the different session in charge. The first session in charge was taken over by Dr. M.R. Hegde. Of course, you all know Dr. M.R. Hegde is a very senior and eminent scientist working in the Institute of Horticulture Research, Indian Institute of Horticulture Research, Esraghatta. I request Dr. M.R. Hegde to come forward for giving the reporter's report. Please.
The inaugural session report. Chairman and delegates, I am here to sum up the proceedings what went on yesterday in the inaugural session and the technical session 1. There were very lucid presentations yesterday in the inaugural session. First, in his welcome address, Dr. P.K. Shetty, Professor and former Dean NIAS, besides welcoming the dignitaries, also remembered NIAS founder Sri J.R.D. Tata, who defined a clear direction to take knowledge forward in the fields of research on social science, biological science and other, and to act as a think tank to public and private institutions, and to create new leadership through networking of scientific institutions and private platforms for scientific discussion. He also elaborated about importance of agro-innovations, national and international collaborations, policy backup, and institutional dynamics. Then immediately there was a presentation by our eminent father of Green Revolution, Dr. Swaminathan, who in his talk remembered J.R.D. Tata again for his vision for a health well-being of the population, talked about biosecurity and sustainable food production and also nutritional security. He recollected and mentioned that 2013 is the 70th anniversary of Bengal famine. He emphasized that the future belongs to nation with grains, not the guns, highlighting the importance of increasing the agriculture productivity to feed the nation. Taking the example of corn, he said, instead of feeding the world, this particular grain is fueling the world also. A blend of scientific skill, political will, and farmers' toil will be able to increase the productivity. Please see the words, very good words he has used. 2013 is significant in the sense that from ship to mouth, the proposed National Food Security Bill of India 2013 envisages the right to food. Very important. According to him, 2013 is also important because that marks the 60th year of molecular genetics, which started in 1953 and today we are in 2013. He reiterated that his own statement made in 1982 that there is a need for evergreen revolution aiming at not only productivity but a judicious use of natural resources. The challenge now is to produce more from less, in the sense increasing the productivity while with declining and deteriorating production environment. He stressed the need for not only more food production, this has appeared in today's newspaper also, not only for more food production, but access to food, and that to save food, very important. In the context of biosecurity in agriculture, a mention was made about the invasive and alien species of pests like banana bunchy top, he mentioned that, and he advocated that genetic checkmating strategy for diseases and pests are required. And he also mentioned about the hub and spoke model for national biosecurity system, and he advocated for a national biosecurity authority for tackling this. While advocating farming system approach for nutrition, he mentioned that aim is to convert every family farm into eco-cum bio-fortified farm, very important, by mainstreaming the principles of ecology and nutritional farming system. He mentioned that in order to strengthen this, Women Farmers Entitlement Bill 2012 was introduced by himself in the Rajya Sabha as a private member bill. He also indicated that UN General Assembly on 2011 declared 2014 as International Year of Family Farming, very important thing. Then there was a talk by DG ICR, Dr. Ayyappan, very good presentation. He emphasized on reaching the unreached and to produce more from less through various innovations in NAR system, National Agriculture Research System, that is through yield-led growth rather than area-led growth. Dryland farming would receive 62% of the agriculture investment in the 12th plan, he told. Some of the frontier areas of research like nanotechnology, climate-smart villages, bioengineering, organic farming, and the whole integrated farming system would be the way forward. According to him, the future we want is remunerative agriculture, self-sufficiency in pulses, precision farming, farm efficiency, equity and empowerment, comprehensive agriculture biosecurity system, quality HR human resource development, and integration, innovation and investment. He also highlighted that in the 12th plan, ICR intends to give emphasis on various consortia platforms, very important again, Vision 2050, Farmers First, student-ready programs, agriculture R&D policy, establishment of agri-incubation centers, again for entrepreneurship development, commercialization, and public-private partnership. He emphasized that need for employing frontier, Then Dr. Abhijit Sen, his characteristic style, he gave some good points. Member Planning Commission is of the opinion that sustainable and growth-oriented productivity should be the mantra for the future, and he observed that the productivity in the past was only partial and incremental, and in the future it should be total factor, very important, total factor productivity, which may be equivalent to evergreen revolution as proposed by Dr. MS. According to him, reduction in uncertainty and reduction in the cost could be required to achieve increased productivity, which may result in knowledge and problem-solving agriculture, which we want today. Despite the future being the complex and the uncertain world, he says one need not be pessimistic but optimistic. That is a very good sign. Dr. Shengen Fan, DG, International Food Policy Research Institute, presented a talk on sustainable agriculture productivity growth, food and nutritional security. He observed that food and nutritional insecurity is still persistent in India, and future challenges threaten food and nutritional security. Further, an innovation and integrated approach is needed to improve food and nutritional security in a country like India. He emphasized that challenges like increasing population, urbanization, natural resource degradation, climate change, and higher frequency intensity of extreme weather aberrations, and this has to be tackled. In order to address these challenges, he advocated an innovative and integrated approach in agriculture. Dr. Ramamurthy, Director NIAS, in his concluding remarks mentioned that though there are challenges that India and world faces today in agriculture, there are also very good opportunities, and policy initiatives should be directed toward addressing these challenges. He was of the opinion that there is a need to increase productivity with sustainable use of natural resources, particularly land and water. He further emphasized that we cannot ignore the human angle, that the well-being of the people, that is livelihood analysis. He also stressed the need at the end for having close contact with land and plants. Today, we are seeing this getting reduced by not only our scientists, but also farmers. This is in brief, sir, the inaugural session. Coming to the proceeding technical session 1, here the chairman was Dr. Mahadevappa and the rapporteur was myself. In this session, there were 3 presentations. First presentation by Dr. S.K. Datta, Honorable DDG, Crop Science, ICAR, on issues and challenges facing Indian agriculture. In his talk, he indicated that higher production is required in cereals, pulses, and oilseeds to meet the further demand due to population pressure. The requirement of pulses is to the extent of 140% of the present level, and that of oilseed is by 243% of the current level. India needs to produce wheat 100 million tons by 2020. In the coming 20 years, rice and wheat continues to be the main staple food for feeding the mass. Hence, concerted efforts are required to enhance productivity, keeping quality perspective in these crops. It is also necessary to employ new biotechnological tools, designer plant breeding techniques, identification of novel genes, irrigation, etc. Irrigation play a very vital role, he mentioned, in crop production. Some of the states like Bihar and Chhattisgarh have a lot of untapped potential. So we have to concentrate in these states for going for a higher productivity. In India, 38% of the fertilizer is imported, very important. Hence, it is judicious use and also using genes which help in crops like rice to grow them under the poor soils is also he mentioned. In crop like rice, there is a scope for exist for converting from C3 to C4, again very important point. Another area he emphasizes to incorporate and activate genes for biological nitrogen fixation. He quoted that the controversy on GM crops needs to be settled with structured debate, again important point. India needs to give emphasis on processing, market linkage and export, as more or less production directly affects the farmers. India should employ new innovations which have been adopted by China and USA in enhancing the productivity. He intended to give stress on human resource development, knowledge-based agriculture, site-specific technology generation, and long-term vision in agriculture. Some of the future thrust action points he indicated, I have noted down because it is very essential. They are proper conservation of genetic resources, number 1, employing frontier areas of research like biotechnology, nanotechnology, GM crops, etc., etc. Then site-specific technology generation, quality seed production, knowledge-based agriculture and its dissemination, that is extension, use of science and technology for improving livelihood of small landholders and women, and structured debate for solving problems related to GM crops. Next presentation was by Dr. Indu Sharma, one of the lady directors of ICAR, working as the director in Wheat Research Institute, Karnal, on research policy and institutional dynamics in enhancing wheat production and productivity in India. She indicated that India is the second largest wheat producer in the world, and this could be achieved through strong research and developmental support, strong institutional linkage, adequate seed production, and development of specific varieties for different agroclimatic zones. She told that by 2020, hybrid wheat, GM wheat, and resource-efficient genotypes in wheat may be the reality. That is one good initiative. She assured that with robust wheat research program in the country, it is able to face any contingencies. Some of the future thrust she mentioned were higher investment in research, effective quarantine against pest and diseases, addressing issues on patent regime hindering gene flow, very important, improve the storage facilities in rural areas, development of machinery for smallholders, fixation of minimum support price on scientific rationale, procurement based on quality, bridging yield gap through effective transfer of technology, rational policy on wheat export because we are self-sufficient now. Third presentation was by Dr. Ashok King on enhancing rice productivity in India, aspect and prospect. He is from IARI, New Delhi. Although rice is very important crop of India, however, in terms of productivity, it is 59th, very important to note. The main reason being rice is grown in all types of agroeconomic regions, including fragile ecosystems. In India, till today, 59 hybrids have been released, but they cover only 2 million hectares due to poor cooking quality, higher seed cost, and poor procurement policy. At IRA itself, in Delhi, several new hybrids with novel traits have been developed. In Basmati rice, there are two important hybrids released recently by IRA, namely PB 1121 and PB 1509. These Basmati rice varieties cover 2 million hectares area, and the export earnings are very significant, 15,900 crores, very important. And he stressed that there is ample potential for enhancing area under Basmati rice in India. Some of the future thrust he indicated were sustaining the present yield level, bridging the yield gap through use of improved varieties and improved technologies, setting new yield goals, that is also very important. Banning the burning of straw in northern states, about 100 million tons of straw is burnt every year, which is equivalent to 40 million of coal. Last is development of fortified rice and breeding varieties for no-till agriculture. This is one of the important areas again. With this, the session was ended, and Dr. Mahadevappa, chairman of the session, complimented all the three speakers for the excellent presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Hegde, for having summed up the presentation of both the inaugural session and also the first technical session. Now we'll go to the next session, which is being reported by Dr. A. Natarajan or Dr. A. Natarajan. Yeah, please.
Sadamat is former advisor to Planning Commission, New Delhi. He has traced the agricultural growth scenario in our country and how to overcome the problems faced by Indian farmers, opportunities available, and role of extension in improving the ground situation and the urgent need for reforms in extension activities. According to him, though the agricultural growth rate during the planned periods from 9th to 11th has remained around 3%, its contribution to GDP has declined. It has come down from 20% to 14% during the 11th planned period. At the same time, the number of people engaged in agriculture has remained almost constant, remained same. So agriculture has not come down in most of the states, the population involved in it. Added to this is the extent of hunger, malnutrition, land degradation, salinity, waterlogging, and other problems related to the sustainability of agricultural situation in this country. So under this situation, the speaker highlighted the opportunities available and in the Indian situation, how the Indian agriculture can benefit by reorienting into activities during the 12th planned period, which was recently launched last week. According to him, though there are many schemes and plans promoted by the Government of India at the district level and upwards, like RKVY and IWMP, their implementation at the grassroots level is not satisfactory. It is time that there is an urgent need for reorienting our plans and schemes suiting to the needs of the villagers or grassroots level or farm level. The next point is, resource is not a constraint. As he has mentioned, during the 11th plan period, it was around 1.98 lakh crores for all the development programs in the country, which has been increased to 4.3 lakh crores. It's almost twofold or more than twofold jump. So what he says is there is no constraint of the resources available for various schemes like National Food Security Mission, National Horticulture Mission, and IWMP, and so on. So what is necessary is to reorient all our activities so that the farmers benefit directly at the grassroots level. To accelerate, what is the missing link as per him is the extension work. For him, there is an urgent need to reorient the agricultural extension system in the country, for which he has suggested the following points. Activities needs to be focused at the grassroots at field level. First, by incorporating the success stories from different parts of the country. Then redefining the roles of Atma, KVKs, and other grassroots level organizations. The third is identifying varieties and package of practices suitable for local areas and situations. Promoting agricultural extension agents in large numbers, as our Vice Chancellor has pointed out a little earlier. It may not be the conventional way of promoting. There are other ways of looking for promoting agricultural activities in the countryside, promoting knowledge through ICT, and identifying NGOs, and promoting farmers' groups, and encouraging community participation. These are some of the suggestions to overcome and get benefit from the 12th plan period. The next presentation was by Dr. A.G. Ponnaya about the importance of aquaculture in expanding farmers' economy and poverty alleviation. As per him, the very important source of protein in our country is fish, because it's available from inland and offshore situations. We have vast potential of landlocked tanks and other irrigation sources which are not tapped and which can be exploited fully to meet the food requirements and particularly protein requirements of our farmers. To utilize this vast potential, we need to have high investment, which is lacking. There is very sporadic attempts to increase the productivity of fish in our country, but not in a sustained manner. So next is provide adequate and timely credit and insurance facilities, which are very much needed, very much lacking at present. Develop scientific and modern markets, which is again lacking, with supported by post-harvest technology. Next is provide required institutional support at different levels. Establish required regulatory mechanisms for food security and safety and other related policy issues. Further, to accelerate the development of fisheries in our country, is suggested to focus on area-wise development. There are different situations available which needs to be developed in a specific manner to encourage contract farming and to encourage involvement of women, cold storage facilities, and provide required extension so that the fish productivity is increased in a sustainable manner. The third presentation is by the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Agricultural University on new innovations, technologies, and practices, enhancing agricultural production productivity in India. Though, as per him, though the productivity of cereals has reached 106 million tons during the last year, 2011-12, with reduced area. The area has been reducing every year, though marginally, but the productivity has reached a very high level. And the farmers, at the same time, the benefits accruing to farmers are not considerable. Significantly, they are getting reduced margins in their farm level. So, he narrated the situation, crisis, almost a crisis situation, specific to Tamil Nadu state by farmers of Tamil Nadu due to large-scale degradation of land and water resources. There are 4 or 5 issues: widespread deficiency of nutrients seen in most of the crops, unchecked release of ternary effluents. It's very, very, very large scale. It's happening in Tamil Nadu, and large-scale migration of people to the urban areas. To overcome some of the suggestions from him, he elaborated the following strategies. One is need for vertical growth, because the land holdings are small, the area is available is small. The possibility is vertical growth. Policy for rational use of the water resources. They are not evenly spread, so what can be done to use the resources in a very sustainable manner? Third is technology for enhancement of bioprecipitation during drought years, which right now they are attempting in delta areas, and this is their concern actually. Enhancing nutrient supply, promoting precision agriculture, promoting local knowledge and its integration with modern science, and promoting tree cultivation, marker assisted selection and breeding, policy focus in mechanization, individual farmer specific technologies and action plans. These are some of the strategies he has suggested to overcome the situation, specifically in Tamil Nadu. Also elaborated, this can hold good for our country also. He suggested many approaches to overcome the above situation, and with that his speech ended, and the final presentation was about the research, policy, and institutional dynamics required to enhance the production and productivity of rice in India, presented by Dr. T. Mahapatra, Director of CRRI, Cuttack. Because his presentation, there were many other presentations earlier about rice specifically, so he has left some of the introductory components, part of his speech, but he mentioned that India is the second largest rice producer next to China, but the important cereal affects not only their nutritional security or the emotional and social and many other securities in our country. of the people. Over a period of time, though the area remained almost the same, this is a constant point which is remained. There is not much expansion over the decades on rice cultivation. There is a significant increase in yield, which has increased from 1,500 kgs per hectare in the 80s to 2,200 kgs per hectare in 2010-11. So Kharif production, out of this, Kharif production accounts 90% of the rice production in our country and 10 or 11% by Rabi production. In the eastern and northeastern part of the country, major area of rice occurs. But the productivity level in this region is very low. Whereas states like Punjab, Haryana and Tamil Nadu and AP, the increase in productivity is high compared to the northeastern states. And for the challenges in rice production, he has elaborated, one is the productivity increase, which is very low at present, development of salinity, waterlogging resistant strains, and storage and procurement problems. And he highlighted the research agenda needed to address the issues. Some of that is productivity increase techniques, develop varieties to withstand the biotic and abiotic stress, and producing enriched rice varieties, improving soil health, reducing environmental concerns, reduce the cost of cultivation, address procurement, storage, marketing issues, break the yield ceiling barrier, and develop hybrid rice, value addition, and for which the policy and institutional dynamics needed are need for greater funding to integrate frontier science with the conventional methods of breeding, and then policy framework for GM rice. These are some of the points and suggestions which was given. So this was chaired by the chairman, Dr. Ajay Parida, and these are some of the points, sir. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Natarajan. In fact, he has given an excellent overview of all the speakers in that particular session. There's a small change in the program schedule now. Dr. Ajay Parida wanted to go because he has a flight at 7 o'clock. You know that he chaired this particular session, which being read out by the esteemed reporter about the important observations or the recommendations. Since he wanted to make a move, he will be offering his comments, remarks on this occasion. I request Dr. Ajay Parida to give out his views. In fact, I did not give more introduction about him. He is the director of the prestigious institution, the MSSR Foundation at Chennai, and is a very renowned scientist working for more than 2 decades there. Let us give the platform for him. Thank you.
I'm sorry, first of my apologies, I have to come in between and then because I have to, well, as a partner in this entire initiative with National Institute of Advanced Studies, on behalf of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, it's a great pleasure to have all of you here for the last 2 days. I'm sure all of you would have enjoyed the type of deliberations, and when we, in the very planning stage, when we discussed about what the topic would be, all of you know that that time this Rio Plus 20s concept was coming up, and that is the title we put for the future we want. I think it was a borrowed title from the future. But I think giving that particular focus, it's not more discussing about challenges, opportunity, but I think this is the general trend which has been now, if you go to the, I think the Honorable Vice Chancellor will agree, and all of you who are working with the community will agree that now people are desperately asking you for solutions. No more research. I think even everybody is saying that you have done enough research. I think what is there for us from whatever the research we are taking. So the demand of the people is going to drive the research, what we are going to do. I think there is going to be a little of shift that earlier we have been talking about, we are doing research and then we'll go for the traditional technology transfer through extension, but no. Now the thing is that people first, what they want, they will define what the research priority is going to be. I think this particular seminar has been quite useful. It has given us what are the type of progress we have made, what are the type of opportunities we have, and what are the type of solutions we have for the people's problem. And this entire thing, I think, in the global scale also, we are talking about research, then action, and then toward the policy. whatever research we do, that should be linked to the action at the ground level, and whatever the small initiative we are doing, how does they influence the policy dynamics of these things? I mean, you heard from many people, money is not a problem in India, scientific and technological solutions are not a problem in India, then what is the problem? If you don't have problem in the research, you don't have problem in the money, then essentially the missing link is what is the problem. And that is all our common, understanding, and our technical or technological brains should be put together to address this particular solutions. At the end of the, Dr. Ramaswamy, the Secretary of Science and Technology, has been always talking about what you call the solution science rather than pure technical science and all these things. And the buzzword now is that we do not do different things, but we should do things differently. I think that is the bottom line. It has been a very great pleasure to work with NIAS, and as Dr. Swaminathan already mentioned, the 2014 is the year of family farming, and we could have one more discussion in the next year, beginning of the next year, to celebrate this family farming in collaboration with the NIAS. Well, on behalf of Mrs. Sarab, I thank all of you for your excellent contribution to this particular success of the things. Last but not the least, my sincere thanks to Dr. Sethi for organizing, for local hospitality and everything he has taken on his shoulders. So on behalf of Mrs. Sarab, I also thank you. Thank you very much. I think, sir, we should continue with this. Sorry, I have to leave that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So let us give a big claps to Dr. Ajay Parida. In fact, he has given a very right message, what we look forward in the days to come. We have the technology, we have the sufficient funds. Only thing, how this can be made possible to enable the farmer to make his ability. This is the area need to be addressed. The right gap has been put forth to you for you to ponder around, for you to think over. So now with this, we'll go to the next report here to give important recommendations or the observations. Dr. Rajendra Hegde pertains to the technical session third.
Consider Dr. Shetty and all my dear friends. This third session, there are four speakers. Dr. Gopi Ghosh from FAO representative, he talked on strategies and approaches for sustainable agriculture. So he felt that there is a need for second green revolution, and he made a statement that no significant innovations or path-breaking innovations have taken place after the first green revolution. So, and in view of the climate change and the perpetually increasing population, there is a need for second green revolution. He emphasized the sustainability on three fronts, that's natural resource sustainability, ecological sustainability, and sustainability of small farms, which are the dominant ones in the Indian situations. So in order to achieve this kind of sustainability, he emphasized the priority areas on 5 important frontiers, that is soil health management, water management, then varietal improvement, taking into consideration the genetic engineering aspects, of course pest management, and policy changes in many areas he suggested. And a very important statement he made is on the to grow in farming, there is a need to inculcate a habit of saving. He tells save money for the farmers, and saving the natural resources, and saving the food, he tells, because a lot of food is being wasted everywhere we see, and in the hunger index also, many of our speakers have told India performs very bad in the hunger index. At this moment, because last 2 days we have been hearing very serious discussions, I remember a small incident regarding when a man becomes hungry when he goes without food, it can drive him to any kind of extreme situations. So a person was not having sufficient food to have his lunch. So he saw a 5-star hotel, but he had only 50 or 100 rupees in his pocket. But he thought, okay, let me take a chance. He went and had good food. They came out and gave 1,500 rupees bill. So he was wondering what to do. Then the waiter, when he came, he told, sir, I don't have money. Then 5-star hotel, no, he immediately called police. Police came and arrested him and took him. So on the way, he gave 50 rupees to police and went away. So the moral of the story is, even if you don't have the resources, if you have will and skill, you can manage to achieve whatever is your goal. That is the first. Then the second presentation was by Dr. N. Krishna Kumar, DDG Horticulture. He talked about the food safety issues and environmental safety issues in horticulture. He highlighted the growth and the importance of horticulture in the nutrition sector in many aspects. As most of us eat fresh foods or vegetables, and also the fruit is always we take, whenever we are going to meet sick people, we always take fruits. So the kind of pesticides, he tells that the study has indicated that 2.5 to 3% of our fresh vegetables and fruits monitored for some selected pesticides have shown residues higher than the maximum residue levels specified at the international standards. So now we can change that world. This one is the no slogan, an apple a day keeps doctor away. We can tell an apple a day keeps our health away. So that is the kind of situation we are facing. But he emphasized that when we wish to export our horticulture, or for that matter any farm product, we have no choice but stringently apply the international standards of pesticides and their residues in our farming situations in the coming years. Then Dr. Rajendran is the ADG Plant Protection. He came with the title of 50 Years of Silent Spring. It is a book written by Rachel Carson. He elaborated on the work of Rachel Carson, where she has challenged the use of pesticides, particularly DDT, on various crops and host of situations causing violation of rights of life of not only human beings, right of life of even animals, even the insects and all other living forms she has challenged, and finally it led to the JF Kennedy banning this DDT compound. So, and he emphasized the evolution of IPM, that's integrated pest management. He came out with various other evolution steps where in integrated pest IPM, he has from integrated to it became intelligent pest management, then individual pest management. Now he tells maybe it is become irrelevant pest management. He tells, so for that he has suggested, of course, various measures also to tide over this one. The first most emphasis he has given is GAP, that is good agriculture practices and implementation of existing laws, stringent laws. Stringently apply the existing laws, he has emphasized. He emphasized a very interesting, this one he made, our political leaders should be made properly guided or informed, because we have existing several laws. So our political leadership needs to be properly guided and informed by our technocrats. I remember on small story it should be told by Sadhguru. He used to tell our political leaders are like idli, South Indian dish, no? Idli. So it comes in various shapes but soft. But idli as such, it is tasteless. It becomes tasty only if it comes with sambar and chutney. So our technocrats are nothing but sambar and chutney. Idli as such is totally tasteless. So our technocrats and our bureaucrats, if they properly guide our leadership, they are soft, just like idli, in various shapes, bulging and all. So, but still, they are Then Rajivan from Earth Sciences, he made a presentation on climate change phenomenon, its impact on agriculture. Every one of us feel, of course, during the summer months, we feel that our climate is changing. He stated that in last 100 years, the adverse effect of climate has led to temperature increase by 0.6 degrees centigrade, the average. So he tells average temperature is increasing, total rainfall is also increasing, but regional variability and the variability within the regions is not understood properly. So he tells that because of this kind of vagaries of nature, we have less number of rainy days, but more number of high intensity rains. So our system should take care itself or get ready to face these kind of aberrations. That is nothing but more of events like a flood and drought and such things. So these are all the 4 speakers who gave us the various inputs from their talks during this session. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajendra Hegde, for a very, very interesting narration of your own experiences along with the recommendations. So I appreciate for your humorous presentation. Now we shall go to the next speaker, Dr. B. Narayansamy, the reporter of the 4th session.
Right. Chairman of this session, and also my beloved Guruji, Dr. K. Narayan Gowda sir, and also the real brain behind this important international conference, Dr. P.K. Shetty Saab, and my dear delegates. I'm having privilege to present this report of 4th technical session. I'm having full privilege because my chairman is not here, he's already left. Dr. Ajay Paroda ji, Executive Director, MSSRF, he has given full freedom to present this.
But others are there too.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. There were 4 presentations on different dimensions which were most relevant to this title of this international conference. Let me present only a few bullet point aspects. I'm giving full report to the chairman afterwards of this conference. Dr. C.L.L. Gowda, Research Program Director, ECRISAT Hyderabad, presented on the topic, Enhancing the Productivity and Production of Pulses in India. He highlighted the importance and contributions of pulses in Indian economy and livelihood. Also, its contribution to reduce malnutrition to achieve food security apart from maintaining the sustainability of farming systems. The real challenges are reduced per capita consumption of pulses in India, the displacement of pulses with other crops in important traditional areas of pulses. It is painful to note here. Though India is the largest producer as well as consumer of pulses in the world, about 3.5 million tons of pulses importing from Myanmar, Canada, Australia, it is very pathetic to note here. The need of anticipated growth rate of pulses in India is 4.2% to meet the important needs and demands. The biotic and abiotic constraints, socio-economic constraints, and policy constraints are to be taken care of apart from encouraging suitable production technologies. Strategies to increase pulse production are short duration and high yielding and drought tolerant varieties, improved seed delivery system, concentration on mechanization are need of the hour. The case study of chickpea revolution in Andhra Pradesh, what he presented, states that 4-fold increase in area, 2.5 times increase in productivity, 9-fold increase in production, and 80% of area of AP with high-yielding varieties in pulses. It is really a transformation from subsistence to commercial cultivation of chickpea in AP. This is a real role model approach for remaining pulses grown states of our country. Accordingly, there should be coordinating efforts across the country among different departments and also important ministries. Second presentation by Dr. R.S.S. Hopper, Program Director, Eco Technology, MSSRF Chennai, Tamil Nadu, on the topic, Bio-Industrial Waste Watersheds, Improving Small Farm Productivity in Semi-Arid Regions in an Era of Climate Change. This was the topic. The strategies and working pattern of MSSRF in 6 states in harnessing the science and technology for human development is laudable approach here. Rain-fed agriculture is still untapped in India. Use and adaptation of PRA techniques or tools in all crops and enterprises for future direction, future development of agriculture is needed. Working with JRD Tata Trust by MSSRF and taking the viable technologies to the small and marginal farmers in the villages is notable point here. Holistic consortium approach by considering capacity building, group formation, knowledge empowerment, and also information sharing aspects are really human-centered efforts. Transformational governance and developing the local leaders in agriculture is very important today. Considering lab to land as well as land to lab approach is two-way developmental process in agricultural development. Participatory technology development and by including TOT, transfer of technology, farmer field schools, and also FFD is a replicating model for this country. Integrated farming system approach, learning to work together on cooperative basis is very important, what he highlighted here. Reaching the unreached, voicing the voiceless is possible when you involve all category of the people and with backward and forward linkages. Climate smart agricultural practices model, site specific integrated participatory program in accordance with the NICRA of ICAR, creating win-win situation is very important in agriculture development. Development of participatory monitoring indicators of MSSRF and bio-villages concept are noteworthy here. Next, third presentation was by Dr. A.K. Handa, Principal Scientist, Research Center for Agroforestry, Jhansi, Uttar Pradesh, on the topic Agroforestry for Sustainable Agriculture. Important points are importance of agroforestry, its important components, need of agroforestry science for livelihood, AICRP during the year 1983, what they highlighted, and its concept he also highlighted on agroforestry, and employment generation through agroforestry. It can give, what he highlighted is, it can give 3 million employments in India every year. Though India is having a lot of scope for scientific agroforestry models, we are lagging behind in implementing the models here. It is second largest importer of the wood also. The issues of agroforestry like tree improvement for different agroecological zones, species or varieties, eucalyptus-based agroforestry model, and western dry region agroforestry model, and different ecological systems, what he highlighted in the models are noteworthy here. Maintenance of horticulture-based forestry system for livelihood, agroforestry for energy security, agroforestry for bioenergy, agroforestry for carbon sequestration, and agroforestry-based industries are very important today. He also mentioned apiculture and mushroom-based agroforestry with good examples. The way forward is PPP linkages, commercialization of agroforestry, exploiting the unexploited resources, policy on interstate transportation of agroforestry material, and strengthening of national mission on agroforestry is very important today. Fourth presentation was by Dr. Anil P. Joshi, founder, Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization, HESCO, Dehradun, Uttarakhand, on the topic agriculture, an ecological and economic pursuit for youth. Highlighting some of the important aspects of agriculture, large rural-urban economic gaps also he highlighted. Ecology and economy are in two opposite directions today. It is very pathetic to note here. And also, agriculture is not remunerative for some of the people. Agriculture is not remained as agriculture today. It is agri-commerce. No economy can sustain without ecology. In name of economy, disturbances are so many at present today. He highlighted that without considering the ecology, there is no importance of GDP in this country. Empowering the rural category, which is an important workforce in India today. 80% of the rural youth having migrating tendency, 25% of the rural youth prone to antisocial activities. It is very pathetic to note here, and we have to consider the youths in bringing them into mainstream. Isolated, untapped models of farmers are to be taken into consideration for replication. Serious efforts to improve agriculture through mechanization, innovative entrepreneurship development for employment, tapping the untapped agriculture and agri-related areas are very important. Encouraging rural groups to lead dignified life, market-oriented innovative strategies are very important. Rural-urban connectivity and migration control measures are need of the hour. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Narayan Sumi, again for giving a very brief account of the various speakers in this session number 4. Now we shall go to the last session, technical session, reporter being Dr. B. Balakrishna.
Good evening, everyone. Respected Chairman, rapporteur of the concluding session, and members of this August body. Had a chance to be a rapporteur for the technical session 5, in which the luminary speakers like Dr. N.J. Gade, Trustee and Principal Advisor, BAF, Honorable Vice Chancellor of US Bangalore, Dr. Narayan Gowda sir, and Dr. S.D. Kulkarni, Project Director, CIE Bhopal, were 3 speakers who gave different versions of enhancing the productivity in various aspects, including the human angle. Coming to the first topic of mixed farming for sustainable livelihood of small farmers in India, Dr. N.J. Hegde, because he reminded the fact that the 75% of our farmers of the country are small farmers with less than 2 hectares land, of which more than 80% are deprived of irrigation and finding it very difficult to make their livelihood. Though he started with the real facts of rural area, he also highlighted the challenges faced by the rural area today and impact of green revolution on various angles. Now the share of agriculture is almost 17% compared to its national GDP of 60% during 1950s. So due to low per capita consumption of calories, he also emphasized this aspect, both in rural and urban. It is coming down, and due to this, I think malnutrition is increasing. So this is probably one of the reasons why he is emphasizing on mixed farming, which will also give better security in terms of income as well as the nutrition. While he emphasized as a part of watershed development program which was undertaken by BAAF, there was a reduction in migration from rural areas, development of local resources by the participation of people, increase in area under horticulture crops, which has also led to enhanced food processing and income for the rural areas. He also gave very good examples, like up to 40 to 50,000 income can be increased when we are going for processing of horticulture crops. And one of the major point what he has emphasized is the development of group-based activities for achieving all this in the rural areas. So he gave a very clear picture of various strategies for promotion of mixed farming, particularly emphasizing on few points like promotion of livestock, integrating with rain-fed agriculture, ensuring food and nutritional security, and the last one but not the least, the promotion of increasing income generation activities in the rural areas. I think he has very clearly discussed from all his experiences in their different projects. And coming to the livestock development activities undertaken by BAAF, he gave integration of livestock in the farming system can generate an income up to 40 to 45,000 rupees, 35 to 45,000 from 3 cows, and 8 to 10 goats can also give 25 to 30,000 rupees per annum per family. So he also emphasized some of the issues like there is an increase in marginal population of sheep, buffalo and goat. However, there was a negative growth in cattle and other animals in the country, and there is an enhancement in the contribution of animal husbandry to the GDP, though it is very slow, but there is a steady contribution of animal husbandry to the country's GDP. And there is a huge scope for dairy development in the country, since the production potential can be increased up to 5,000. When he was discussing with his experiences with other countries, the potential for our country is up to 5 times we can increase the production potential in dairy farming. He also highlighted the problems of poor farmers and strategies for livestock development, like while discussing the BAAF experiences, particularly introduction of crossbred cows or women empowerment and other various programs he has discussed in detail. And another very important aspects he discussed was goat development and community pasture management, along with improvement in milk processing and sustainable management of livestock. These are some of the important points he discussed, and it should be considered in mixed farming for providing the livelihood for small farmers in our country. And another very important point he highlighted is the production of methane, which also leads to increase in greenhouse gases by 18%. Was coming to the second speaker of this session. Sorry for not preparing the complete report because of paucity of time. Dr. S.D. Kulkarni, who also spoke on post-production agriculture and their role in making the agriculture sustainable. His version was very focused, like hunger index of our country is standing at 65, and one of the major post-production loss for durable products is 5 to 10%, for semi-perishable products is 20 to 25%, and for perishable products it's almost going up to 30 to 30%. He also very clearly emphasized various strategies for minimization of the post-production losses, particularly with involvement of rural youth and meeting the food requirement of the local population. He also gives some of the other strategies like starting of enhancing the agro-processing industries in rural areas, particularly cottage rural industries, and also the value addition to various products, strategies for resource-rich as well as the resource-poor farmers. Various strategies he has discussed in detail, and rural agro-processing industries need to be developed. There is a scope for value addition centers, we called it as VACs, and also the development of agribusiness, particularly for reducing the intermediaries in the processing aspects. And there is a huge scope for the development of value addition centers, which will enable some of the problems encountered during post-production losses in agriculture. Another few aspects he emphasized is specific raw material supply to the industry, processing of organic foods, value addition to minor food forest produce, involvement of disabled person and women, training farm women and development of entrepreneurs, development of primary processing at farm level. These are some strategies which he has highlighted for reduction of post-production losses in Indian agriculture. Few points he highlighted as important aspects for promotion of this is raw material selection, efficient and economical equipment selection. So though he has highlighted a lot of equipments which can be used for various aspects, very specifically he has mentioned efficient and economical equipment selection is equally important. Then capacity of processing units, cottage scale processing, operational problems, employment opportunities which the processing industry can give, and most important is cottage scale agro processing industries. So these are some of the important points the second speaker highlighted during his talk. Then coming to the last speaker of the technical session 5 was Honorable our Vice Chancellor Dr. K. Narayan Gowda. Of course, he started with the declining population or manpower in extension work, which is the major point, and everywhere it is being discussed in most of the firms in the country. And also the declining the participation of rural youth in agriculture, particularly in rural areas. Of course, he has also emphasized on total factor productivity contribution, emphasizing on the contribution of extension, research and other aspects, particularly emphasizing on the contribution of extension to the tune of 45% to total factor productivity in agriculture. Of course, he has also emphasized the percentage of small and marginal farmers who need to be strengthened in their abilities, and also emphasizing on public extension system various aspects, including the state agriculture universities, different boards, ICR, line departments, and how the system can be improved with various inter-institutional linkages. These are some of the points the speaker has emphasized. Another very important aspects what he has discussed is the human capital in terms of both education and training. he also very clearly give a complete picture of and also the difference between education and training. And while one of the study what he has indicated, the inclusion of sixth element in learning situation, which is very, very vital and equally important along with other 5 elements of learning situation, particularly the sixth element like facilitator, which can play a vital and equally important role in capacity building of farmers in most of the programs being implemented by various agencies. Then coming to the capacity building program, he also gave a very clear picture about the past, present and future, and how the group oriented activities can be of great help to us in this aspect. The major part of his speech was on approaches in capacity building, including various strategies and aspects, particularly the penetration of ICTs into the rural areas, the use of distant education to reach the unreached, institutional efforts, particularly KVKs, introduction of diploma courses for rural areas, attracting and retaining rural youth. Of course, many of you are maybe aware that we had a national seminar only on this particular topic very recently organized by US Bangalore, and linking small producers with markets, rural bioresource complex project, which is one of the probably the best talked project in extension system throughout the country now. And the last but not the least, harmony in rural societal system. So these are some of the major points which he has emphasized while building the capacity of farmers through education and training. Of course, the last but not the least focused point was organized approach, particularly the group approach and organizing various approaches by different departments, and strengthening of inter-institutional linkages is also equally important in the capacity building of farmers in various programs. So these are major points emphasized by various speakers. I would like to conclude the statement of the chairman of this session. 2 points he made very clear. There will be a chances of migration of people from mega cities to rural areas, provided certain conditions are given, like good environment and water facilities along with other electricity and other resources required. And another one very important aspect is Mother Earth can support man's need, but not the greed. I think this message can be taken for very well by all of us and need to be practiced and followed. So with these few words, I thank the chairman as well as the organizer to give me an opportunity to present my views. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Balakrishna, for having had summed up well, although you had a limited time to come prepared for this important session. Of course, you were able to narrate all the speakers' important visions and thinking. Now we shall go to the last but one session, which is concerned with the poster presentation. Of course, this is going to be led by none other than the organizer himself, Dr. P.K. Shetty. The best poster presentation. Of course, 3 of the poster presentations going to be narrated here. I request Dr. P.K. Shetty to take over. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. As you know, for this conference, we have invited very distinguished speakers from India and also from outside India. But we have opened few slots for poster presentation. There are about 16 posters to encourage students and faculty members from various state agriculture university. We have instituted 3 awards, both certificate as well as financial support. Some criteria were set for selecting the 3 best posters out of these 16 by Dr. Prasad from AME Foundation and also Dr. Harper from MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. I will call up these 3 names. I request our chairman to give away the best poster award, and also they can collect the money from Aisha. Dr. Femina Hassan. Call up Femina Hassan. Dr. Gayatri Devi, these are two from faculty. Geeta Devi, sorry. Geeta Devi and Mr. M.Y. Ullas. All three of you, please come over. Dr. T. Geeta Devi. Okay. Dr. Femina. 1 minute.
You can come this side.
This side.
This side. You come this side, all of you. Good. So, congrats to you.
Dr. Femina Hassan.
And the best wishes. And the Happy New Year.
Dr. T. Geeta Devi.
I think receiving an award of this nature and the Happy New Year occasion is a good thing. And the best wishes.
M.I. Ullas.
Good, yeah. And the best wishes.
Thanks.
Once again, congrats to the award winners in the post presentation. Of course, out of 16 who contested or participated in the occasion, 3 of them have been adjudged as the best. So let us give a big claps to all these 3. Of course, I was moved with Dr. Geeta Devi. In fact, she has retired. But still, what an amount of interest she has. Let us also feel proud of her. Even at this age and passing time, still she has evinced so much of interest. I have a special appreciation for her. Let us also appreciate her. Okay. Well, friends, now we are coming to the close of the validity function. As a chairman of this important session, have some important observation to be passed on to this house. At the outset, I congratulate Dr. P.K. Shetty having had conceived the idea of organizing this particular seminar concerned with ensuring sustainability, how to move forward. Of course, we all knew India has passed great days of importing food to that of exporting the food. In fact, way back in 50s, India was hardly realizing a food production of less than 50 million tons, which has passed to plus 250 million tons in these 6 decades of our passage. So it is really a great achievement. We should all feel proud of ourselves. And of course, with a population of less than 36 crores then, to that of 122 crores now, again we are able to meet such a growing population, because the population growth was 3-fold, whereas the food production growth was 5-fold. Certainly with this, we are able to export the food to the other countries. That is the status. But if you look at the balance of food production, particularly cereals and pulses, we are importing. Now, this is what the great concern. The honorable speakers yesterday had also made a mention and their presentation or their talk at different points of time, what we need to stress. But then where we are lagging behind, of course, if you take in the context of the milk, fruits and vegetables, and the fish production, quite a number of areas we are very comfortable. That's also satisfying one. But there are areas where we need to fill up the gap and we need to address that. So there is a need for proper data management on how to go about in the future. On one side we are excess, and then there is a deficiency. How this deficiency can be addressed, what is required is the required data to be provided to the farmers so that we can try to have a balanced view. The internal food security has to be addressed first, then we should look forward the export and other things. The second point that we also should be very cautious, should be able to look forward is on the perishable commodities. Every now and then we hear about the excess production of tomato in one year, the excess production of potato in the another year, the chilies, and quite a number of other perishable commodities. And what is happening to them also is also known to all of us. Then, can you not find a solution for this? This is one area needs a serious thought by all of us, how this could be monitored, the wastage could be brought in. Of course, many of our reporters has also made a mention based on the speeches or the talks delivered by others that how much is the wastage is going on. So there is a need for a serious look on how this wastage could be minimized, particularly the perishable ones. And this could be done, in my considered opinion, with proper data management. And with the present day communication network, what we have at the grassroots level to that of the national level, it is easy for us to take stock of what is being produced, how we can allocate it, and how the message can be given to the people in the down the side to plan their production so that we can try to contain the requirement of the perishable commodities for the country, keeping the export opportunities, the processing opportunities, and so on and so forth. This one area requires sort of a lot of serious deliberation in us, because this itself running to loss of billions. Every year, if you look at, in Karnataka alone, we are observing, if you look at across the country, the losses are so much, and even the post-harvest losses, right from the field to the end of the taking to the house also, at different phases we are finding the losses, and that also can be contained or minimized if proper database management is being done. Then the biggest challenge before all of us has also been emphasized by some of the people is the marketing aspects. In fact, we are all very proud and happy as far as the production side is concerned. We need not worry so much, and the technology aspect is also very comfortable, has already been pulled. With the existing technology, if it is in put to proper use, we can even achieve threefold production. It is possible. But what is required is how a respectable marketing should be provided to the farmers. This is the biggest challenge, biggest need of the hour for all of us. If the farmer were to get at least 65 to 70% of what a consumer pays, he will be very happy. Unfortunately, we are not able to cross around 35 to 40% in the perishable commodities, and maybe around 50% in the food sector, food items like cereals, pulses, and other things. Therefore, there is a need for looking for what are the opportunities and the way forward for us to address this area. If we can able to make the farmer share around 70%, what the farmer is developing a negative attitude, what a farmer is something annoyed about the farming, continuing the farming can easily be avoided, it can easily be brought back to be comfortable in the farming. What the chairman, last session chairman was making a mention, nowadays, given the choice, even there are no offers for the farmers who are the young farmers engaged in the farming. That is the type of situation. So that being the case, you can see the gravity of the problem that is going, and situation may go from bad to worse if the conditions are not being improved upon. So we have a greater social responsibility to address how farming can be made more attractive, more profitable. People living in the rural areas are being more comfortable. That's the area need to be addressed. If that is being addressed, then the demand for asking for the information, asking for the technology comes on its own. And for this, we have enough debated, and many of the speakers have repeatedly mentioned. In fact, I didn't get the fortune of participating after the inaugural session was over yesterday because of my other compulsions. But I came to know from the reporter's speech that most of them are centered around on how the organized arrangements are required, how the associations are required for the present day context. And we all knew the resources are declining. Natural resources are declining in terms of the per capita. The per capita land holding, whatever may be said and done, is going to decline in the days to come. It certainly will not going to be much higher than what is today. Therefore, what is the option before us? If the people are being organized, perhaps all this problem can be addressed, and that's the area requires a lot of concentration, a lot of efforts by all of us. And yesterday when I was informally talking to the honorable member of the Planning Commission, he at one slot, without my revealing this thing, he said, what is required for tomorrow is organized arrangement of the farmers. If that is being done, perhaps we can take care of much of the problems of the farmers. And in this particular context, research is also being required. What is the ideal size of a farmer group to be organized? For a high value technology like banana, maybe 100 farmers would be more ideal. For a low value technology like biofuels, even 5,000 may be an ideal group. So this is the area requires a lot of deliberation, a lot of thinking in the whole of the next decade, so that we can able to find a lasting solution to the burning problems which the farmers of today are facing. And of course, as made mention, this problem is not confined to India. Most of the Asian countries are facing this problem. Once I had an occasion to participate in one of the APO seminars, where one of the Japanese farmer was making a mention way back in 2003. Given the choice, the Japanese youth doesn't want to be continued in the farming. They want to move away from the farming. Incidentally, there is a Japanese girl who is here. Perhaps she might have got the full information from the fellow people in the Japanese rural areas. Likewise, some of the people who have traveled far and wide possibly might have got the feedback across the different villages, different countries. I am sure the mindset of the situation is more or less the same. So with this, I consider that there is a great opportunity for the farmers in India, because as rightly mentioned by Dr. Balakrishna at the end of the day, that we should be needy but not greedy. This is the area that needs to be addressed. This is the area that needs to be taken in the right spirit. If you look at many of the other countries, like the Arab countries, recently the Qatar government asked US Bangalore to provide a technical consultancy services. When we asked them certain basic information regarding what is the rainfall, what is the soil type, and many other features, it was so astonishing. It was so interesting that where we are and where they are. The Qatar has three important agrochromatic features. On the upside, to the northern side, the annual rainfall is about 70 mm. It is less than 3 inches of rainfall. And the central part receiving is about 50 mm rainfall. And the downside, south part, hardly they receives the rainfall. This is the type of situation. And the entire Qatar soil is sandy. And where we are and where they are. See, we are blessed with such a wonderful resource. Unfortunately, we are not utilizing this resource in the way that is required for the populace what we have. I am confident with the natural resource what we have, we can feed, even there is going to be another 50 crores of people going to be added on this soil. It is possible. Only thing is the efficient use of resources what we have bestowed with. With this, I would like to only congratulate Professor P.K. Shetty for having conceived the idea of organizing this important seminar at a time when so much deliberations are required on how to move forward. And he is also good enough to invite such eminent personalities, including Professor M.S. Swaminathan, one of the legendary in the Indian history of agriculture, and our present DG ICR, Professor Ayappanji. In fact, he is known for his such a wonderful knowledge on the variety of aspects of agriculture, ongoing and also the future thinking, and many of the eminent speakers. I could notice the list of participants here who has given wonderful talk on variety of issues which is of the need of the hour, including the climate change and many of the burning issues. So let us give a big claps to Professor P.K. Shetty for having organized this seminar on ensuring the sustainability and also moving forward. Before that, I would like to make an important announcement. US Bangalore, which started in 1963, is completing 50 years of its useful existence. And I am also happy to make a mention, Dr. P.K. Shetty was one of the alumnus of this university, and many of them who are sitting here, they are all the alumnus. We look forward for your active participation in the celebration of the Golden Jubilee of the US Bangalore, which starts from sometime in the mid of June this year and goes up to May 2014. All the best wishes to you. Thank you.
Chairing the last session is very difficult for the chairman and also, for giving the vote of thanks, I feel. First of all, I thank the chairman of this session, Dr. K. Narayan Gowda, very distinguished Vice Chancellor. Today, Dr. Narayan Gowda is one of the dynamic Vice Chancellor of many of the state agricultural universities in this country. He is a thinking and proactive Vice Chancellor. He is implementing many important projects, including one at Dodballapura, the model project in the country. I also want to thank my friend Ajay Parida, who was a co-chairman of this session. To organize this conference, many individuals enormously supported in planning, designing this program. I'll just read out their names. My heartfelt thanks to them: Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. Ayyappan, Dr. V.S. Ramurthy, Dr. Ajay Parida, Dr. M.R. Hegde, Ms. Aisha, Ms. Mariammal, Dr. Manorama, Ms. Thomas, Dr. Narayan Swamy, Dr. Leela, Ms. Vinay, and Pradiksha. My special thanks to Mr. Srinivas Aital, Mr. Devaraju, Mr. Ramakrishna, Shivakumar, Ramesh, Shashidhar, and others from NIAS and MSSRF. I take this opportunity to thank all the invited speakers, chairmen of various sessions, rapporteurs of various technical sessions, invited participants, and all of you who attended this conference in big number. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. All the best. Yeah.